Hi everyone, welcome to Marlow and welcome to London West Spartan Race. That's right, I am here stowed up at my entry-level hotel, another travel lodge. This particular one has a robot hoover in the hallway, which is a colossal step up from the pig hole I was staying in at Manchester. So there is that. Let's start at the very beginning. Okay, so the Spartan Race is probably the world #1 OCR race organizer. It's something that's been going on a long time. They've established their position in the market as the #1 through a lot of hard work. They've figured out their race format. They've divvied it up into race lengths. They've divvied it up into race categories. So there's something for everyone. Let's start with the distances. Now, there are 3 main distances with a couple of other ones as well. So there's the Beast, which is a 30-mile half marathon effort. There is a Super, which is a 10k effort. There is a 5k, one called the Sprint. They do other ones as well, such as the Ultra, which is sort of a 2-lapper of the Beast, 50k job. Then there's things like Hurricane Heats and other things like that. But today we're just going to focus on the things that I'm going to be doing. Tomorrow, Saturday, I will be doing the Beast, which, as I said, is the 13-mile effort. And that takes place throughout the entire Saturday. And then on the Sunday, they will run, in the morning, they'll run the Super, and then they will run the Sprint in the afternoon on Sunday afternoon. But they also do it in 3 different categories. So for the most part, for the majority, they will do it in the opens. You can run with your friends, you can help each other along. The penalties for not completing an obstacle, not enforced or not a big deal, right? It's just about having a bit of fun, a bit of camaraderie, getting around, getting your medal, getting your beer, and bragging about it on social media. Beyond that, if you want to just take the next logical step up, if you feel you're going faster than most of the people in the open waves, or you don't like watching everyone walking, which is common, then you can go and have a go at the age groups, which is what I'm doing this time. Having done my first Spartan race quite late in my OCR career, having sort of doing various OCRs since about 2010, I didn't get round to doing a Spartan race until 2021. In fact, I was going to do it in 2020, but we all know what happened to that year. It all went a bit Pete Tong, and not much happened. So it deferred on to 2021, just out of all the COVID restrictions. Everyone was wearing masks and doing tests, and I went and I did the full Spartan Trifecta. I was blown away by how much effort it took, how much it took out of me, how much I had to use my upper body strength as well as my running. I very much enjoyed it. I enjoyed the format. I enjoyed the feel, the vibe, the brand. It's taken my love of running with my love of gymming and my favourite movie and smooshed them all together and stamped it onto a bunch of metal medals, which everybody loves for some reason. And you get a t-shirt, everything, and a beer. And it is fantastic. So yeah, I fell in love and I said to myself, I'm going to do the season ticket. So 2 years later, after I'd done another set of OCRs last year, I bought the season ticket in that year for this year. And here we are, the first of 3 full trifecta weekends. And there's also one in August, which is a standalone Beast Sprint jobby on a Sunday. So we've got four outings. What I can also do as the events knock on, I'll be able to get trifecta times medals, so times 1, times 2, times 3. So it'll increase the bling count, just 1 more medal each time. So let's talk about tomorrow. I'm going in the age grading. I am 42 years old currently, so I will be going in the 40s to 44s. There's normally only a small amount of people that do these compared to the masses. So there's only 40, 50 people in each group, and they will be penned in together and sent off together. And you race against people of your own age. Now, what it will generally do, it will filter out people that do it in funny outfits, wearing weight vests, walkers. It will most of the people in the age groups will be quite fit dudes, and I'm fully expecting to have my fitness tested. I might even see them all disappear into the distance. They might be that good. I might surprise myself and come in the top half of the pack. I can only hope, I can only wish to be slightly above that halfway mark. I don't necessarily like to consider myself in the sort of bottom end. I'm a pretty good runner and the obstacles don't bother me greatly. But you've already done this before, Mark, so how did you compare? Well, when I did it last time, I carried my GoPro around like this on a stick. Can you imagine how often I would have to compromise my obstacle to take this up over it? Everything from the climbs, the wades, the carries. I carried the Atlas stone with this in one hand. I carried the buckets with this in one hand. I carried the sandbags with this in one hand. And I did that beast in 3 hours. So I will not be taking that tomorrow because I already have the footage. And I want to see how I can do without the camera, without anything getting in my way. I just want to see how I fare. So that's the plan. And then basically I'm going to see how I feel after I've finished Beast. And then obviously I've got Super the next day, which is also age graded, and I'll have to whiz around that as fast as I can. And then after that there is an open wave of Sprint, so I may take the camera to that because my speed really doesn't matter at that point. I will see though. You never know what my appetite might be. It might just be a case of I just want to do it, I'm so tired. It's a really cool event. I just wanted to sit down before where all the running starts, all the shouting starts, and just sort of explain it. I have been dealing, up until this event, I've been dealing with a bit of a medical thing. You can see this. Got quite a nasty infection in my neck. Tomorrow it will be water sealed and I'll just have to crack on with whatever's going on. Obviously it's not an ideal situation to have a horrible thing growing on your neck that's a bit poorly, but it is what it is. I paid for this ticket, I paid for this hotel. There wasn't a chance in hell I wasn't coming here, so I thought I would take a chance that everything holds together, just for 20 miles or so. I've never been to this particular one before. The one I went to in 2021 was the Pippingford Estate Spartan, and that was a jolly good course. It just a really good overall vibe and an overall fantastic amount of beautiful countryside meets Spartan obstacles, and it was just a great mash of just everything. And I wouldn't be here if I hadn't had a good time then. And I went there and I'd gone there on my own, and I'd sort of had to go the whole weekend without any support. So I was quite adamant that I wanted to bring someone to this one. So I brought my wife. That means having to organise 2 lots of babysitters back at home for my wonderful children. Thank you to the mother and the mother-in-law. It's very much appreciated. So without any further ado, we're going to probably go down to the field. No time will have passed in the edit of this video, but probably about 18 hours would have passed in real time. I would have had several meals and been to sleep. Let's go to tomorrow. Wow. Oh yeah, so we left off in my hotel room some 18 hours ago, and today it's 7 o'clock in the morning, just gone, and I am here on site. I have just registered, and now we are in the big sort of beautiful grounds. The open area is sort of the start and finish area where a cluster of obstacles are all put together to make sort of the start and beginning quite exciting before you off up into the hills, and there are hills. Now this may have a direct bearing on my predictions of finish times and things like that. Obviously the more hills the slower the race, but it'll be slower for everyone. So as you can see behind me, we have the overs, unders and throughs. It's a very quick obstacle. You're sort of done within just a couple of minutes, seconds even, maybe even 10 seconds. I was able to go over and under these with this particular GoPro quite quickly not so long back. As you can see, they're about sort of neck height, to sort of get over. Behind that there is the kids course, sort of in the middle there, and then around the edge of the kids course is a sort of adults course, sort of the outbound track, which is this one, which goes that way, and then the inbound track, which comes down this way, finishes over there. The weather is spectacularly good today for an April morning. After the April we've had of just rain and misery, it is beautiful. If anything, in the afternoon it's probably going to be getting borderline too hot for people, because it's forecast 18-19 degrees. Imagine that in April. Anyway, I'm going early, so I'll catch most of the cooler weather, thankfully. But when the sun's bearing down on you, you do generally get a little bit warm straight out of the gate. I will be going off in about 45 minutes. Like I say, I'm not actually recording with this GoPro. We've got a better camera that we're filming with, so stand by. All right. So, I am fully aware that watching someone's race day footage can be a little bit boring without any context or voiceover. So here I am. I'm going to minimise myself up into the corner, and we're going to run through just some of the footage I recorded. Obviously, because some of my footage has been recorded by my good wife, and she didn't run the full 14 miles with me, it is limited to the bits she could get to. It was made harder on the day because the maps weren't published ahead of time, so we didn't really have a chance to formulate much of a plan, but she did a sterling effort and got me at various times in the woods during the beast, which was amazing considering she picked me out of all that space, of all those people. She still found me. So it's important to remember that obviously some of the obstacles are not necessarily covered, but I'm going to talk you through all three races, just the highs and lows, nothing too in-depth. I'm not a professional, this isn't an advice video, this is just what to expect on race day. Certainly from a sort of relatively newbie stepping up into age group, that's kind of my perspective. So without any further ado, I'm going to press play and we will proceed. So starting with warming up at the beast. Obviously I haven't done anything at this point. A few stretches and we're in the starting pen with sort of all the 40-year-olds, and we are off. And there's kind of a sort of a big splooge at the beginning. Everyone kind of has a relatively fast sprint. Here's some gratuitous slow-mo of us going through the overs, unders and throughs. I quite like these obstacles because they're quite quick, and they're nearly always at the beginning on the Spartan race. The walls are high enough that you can just hop over, roll under, and then through the sort of letterbox at the end. Everyone kind of does it slightly differently, and because everyone's still really quite close together, sometimes you kind of have to wait for your turn. Two people can struggle to get over the same obstacle at the same time, or through the same hole at the same time, so you do have to sort of wait a second. Within a few minutes of this sort of manicness, you are sort of funneled back down into sort of the channel where you're supposed to be running, and you start to thin out really quite quickly. So that's where we're at right now with this particular bit of footage. This is where I first saw Holly. It's sort of deep in the woods at about mile 5, and this is at about mile 8. She's been able to locate me on some random woodland trail, really without much point of reference of the other runners. Sort of to be able to find me is a skill all by itself. At this point we've just come out of the crawl under the barbed wire, and we've sort of run around the corner, and we're sort of descending towards the sort of water obstacle. And it was really quite warm on that first day. That fella that's just got out there, he was French. He was told, don't jump into the water, don't jump into the water, whatever you do. And because he didn't speak a word of English, he dived straight in head first, much to my amusement. But I'm a good boy, so I lowered myself in carefully, as instructed by the marshals. These sorts of mounds that were put there, not particularly challenging in their own right, just to sort of clamber up through this little bit of water and clamber up the other side. But what I did notice that I got shoes full of gravel, and I didn't want to stop to let the gravel out because of time. So I ran about the next 6 miles with lots of crap in my shoes. And this pit was sort of running around, heading towards the sort of main corridor of obstacles at this point. It's probably at about mile 10, hence why I've probably lost the will to live. This particular thing was tripping people up. It's like a platform, nothing to hold onto, nothing to hook your hands or feet over, and that was kind of my technique. You just sort of pulled yourself up like this. Lots of people trying to jump, but when you jump, there's nothing to grab onto, so you kind of have to do it slowly. Push until your shoulders are above the table, and then you can sort of wangle your legs up. The net itself, the vertical net's kind of here nor there really, it's just like ladders. This is the alternating high-low monkey bars.
Oh my gosh.
While the actual obstacle itself didn't really prove very testing, this is the thing that tore my callus on day one. Even though I'd been through a load of obstacles that were hanging already before I got to this point, this is the one that did the damage.
Well done.
Really aware of it till about here, and I'm looking at my hands thinking, oh, that hurts, and then you can see all the tears and the horribly red sensitive bits that have been exposed. So yeah, this is the approach now to the spear throw, and look how happy I am to be at the spear throw. I've never landed a spear first time ever, not at a Spartan race. In fact, it took me about 6 goes at Pippingford to land a spear in the bale of hay. So just bear that in mind when you watch this bit of footage, that I have no expectations to land it. And it hit in the shoulder of the wood. I didn't even know if that counted. I was told quite quickly that it did. I've checked the rules since, and the wood does count, which means I didn't have any additional bucket to carry, which I'm quite glad, because taking this silly bucket up this silly hill was absolute rubbish. There's no way to describe it. Maybe the elites ran up this hill, but there was absolutely no motivation for me to run up this hill. It was basically a trudge up and a slight fast walk down. You were very relieved when you went over the top, that's for sure. And it was a case of alternating shoulders. Remember, I had that balliness on the back of my neck, and it was really quite inflamed and sore at that point. So I was trying not to. I couldn't have it on the back of my head like a lot of people were. As you can see down the other side, there's the bucket carry that we've just done up and down that hill, and then on the opposite side of the valley there is an upward hill cargo net, which was extremely tight at the divides. They like to force you right down in order to get in and out of the net, and then doing anything like this uphill, the sweat was dripping off my nose. I later found that the technique was better if you stood. I'm on my knees here. I wish I'd have figured that out then, because I could have saved some valuable time. Moving swiftly on to, is it the hoist? Yes. So this was first go on the hoist. It was very noticeably stiff. The problems with the hoists, despite having the same weight on, it's potluck as to how the health of your pulling. You can get there and you can get one that's seized up, or the rope has swollen, or there's grit in the mechanism, or any number of things that can make that one good, that one bad, that one easy, and that one hard. On day one, no problems whatsoever. Because my hands were relatively fresh. I'd torn my calluses, but I hadn't really processed that pain yet. So I sort of swooped through that quite quickly, and then it was on to the sandbags. Now, this one is frustratingly close to the bucket carry.
It's slightly more comfortable.
Not lots of Spartans, but at the last sort of race I did, there was obviously this, but they were spread out. And when they're spread out, the carries are just easier because you're not using the same muscles or under the same strain at back to back. So yeah. So I was again being able to sort of fast walk up, little jog down kind of thing, swapping shoulders. I had to be really careful with my neck again, because a lot of people were sort of putting it over their shoulders. I was happy to leave that one behind. Yeah, as you can see, it was pure sunshine that day. It was very obvious. Now I've always been okay at the rope once you learn the footlock, and it's not about your upper body. It's all about that footlock and getting up to that bell and getting back down again. If anything, I struggled to get down the rope. I never quite know what to do. I didn't want to let my hands just run through the rope, because of I didn't want to burn any more skin off my hands. The Atlas stones are something I train quite a lot during like my training and stuff. Not necessarily Atlas stones, but large bag carries and stuff. I've used the Atlas stones many times, so they don't really bother me. I can probably carry heavier than that. Quite easily. The problem is with these at the event, because lots of people keep dropping them down, they eventually make like a hole, so it makes it hard to lift them up. It's easiest to roll them out of the hole and then pick them up. And this is kind of now the approach to the A-frame, which is just before the finish. And it's a nice little bit of downhill at the end, very much required. And then it's become quite trendy to flip over the top of the A-frames. I would be the first guy that tried that and then fell off. So I can get over it. It didn't seem to buy these guys much speed in the end, and they didn't make it look particularly graceful. They didn't give it a go. In fact, they nearly knocked the photographer man off the other side. I went down the safe way. And finally, the last obstacle was the rig. Now, it's a bit of a bugbear because they put this on the finish line and they kind of set people up to fail, including me. The rings, the bar, the rings, all fine, until you get to these bits of rope at the end, which are slippery, wheelie, waxy, almost impossible to hold. I think maybe 1 in 20 guys would get through it. So I went up this penalty at least 3 times. And finally over the fire, a little bit of crumb, but very glad to be finished. So that's the beast. Pick this up again. Super.
Quite pleased. That is over. Oh.
Alright guys, that is me done with Beast. That was insane. Now, my only point of reference was the Pippingford Beast 2 years ago, and I found that quite difficult and tough. But this here at Henley is next level, and let me just explain why. One, the hills. The first 8 miles is literally just trail running up and down the side of a valley, up and down, up and down, up and down. And then you come to the odd obstacle, like maybe 5 in that time, and then you just sort of get in towards the 9 mile mark, and then it's obstacle, 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 and they're all grip based initially. There was like the hanging monkey bars, there was the traverse along the rope, then there was Everest, and it just goes on like that. So it's all the grip ones together, and my hands were just falling apart. I've sort of got a callus that's hanging off by a thread, and then you sort of come down to this valley sort of in the last sort of 2 miles, and it's just obstacle, 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 and it's all the carries have been put together as well, so, and that is insane. So right after you've done the bucket up and down a hill, you then have to sandbag up and down a hill. Things that stood out today, things that really made me happy, is the spear throw went straight into the wood of my character, the one I was aiming for. It didn't go to the bale of hay, it just went into the wood and stuck there. So satisfying. I looked at the marshal and went, does that count? And he went, yes, go. I was very happy not to have to do extra bucket carry. Yeah, so that was really quite special. What else? The Atlas Stone. I went into the Atlas Stone with 4 other guys. I didn't mess around, I picked this thing up and I was off. And I could see as I turned that those guys were in various degrees of struggle with this stone. Obviously that's the kind of training I do. That sort of thing doesn't bother me at all. I succeeded on the rope climb and the monkey bars. I did twister, did it sideways, things like that. All the ones that are a little bit tricky, I managed to do some. I did incur some penalties today. What a stupid one, on the balance beam of all things. I touched it with my hand. She was a very strict marshal, but very fair, I guess. And right at the very end there's the multi-rig that has rings, a pole, rings, and then some rope, and it was the rope that was my undoing. But as I stand here, bathed in warm sunshine and an April day, my hands hurt, my feet hurt, my legs hurt, my hips hurt, and my sort of inside of my elbows hurt, I am now filled with that sense of pride that I get when I've finished an event. However, I have trepidation and anxiety about doing this again tomorrow in Super and Sprint. I know that I will wake up aching like a mother hubbard, and I'll have to get out of bed, put all my running kit back on and come back here tomorrow. But that's what I signed up to. So anyway, I am going to go back to the hotel and probably have a nap. I'll speak to you soon. Alright, laters. Welcome everyone, welcome to day 2 here at Spartan Race, London West. Today it is the Super and the Sprint, bit of a double whammy. It is a beautiful day. It might add a little bit of extra stress on the body running in the sunshine, but fingers crossed, should be all right. I've got a few aches and pains from yesterday, lost a few calluses on some of the dangling obstacles, but all in all, I'm quite good for having done the 22 plus kilometers yesterday. So the elite wave's about to kick off. So I've just come down to the start just to have a little look before I go into the car and get myself ready. I will be quite happy once the Super's over. The Super contains quite a few of the obstacles that I didn't want to reoccur this morning, but hey ho, it is what it is. Welcome back. Now we're going to start the Super with some gratuitous slow-mo of lots of beefy men. So this is the next day. This is the Sunday morning. I don't recall positioning myself this far back in the pack, but this is what it was. As you can see, here I am, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, ready for some Super action. The Super itself, 10k, but it clocked in at a good 7 and a bit miles. So this picks up. Holly has ran down the valley, and she picks me up after I'd sort of done the first couple of obstacles. There wasn't much before this, just the sort of barbed wire crawl and stuff like that. So people were much more concentrated. They were still very much closer together. The running hands separated us out. Going through the Super, I'm wearing my gloves, remember, because I've got my hands all taped up, and this is where they inevitably got wet, to the point where they were not going to be dry in time to deal with the hoist that comes into play in a little bit. I didn't put too much of that footage in, but just rest assured it was difficult on the sandy side. So this is just the grit. I was trying to be a little bit more careful as to not get grit in my shoes. Still some found its way in. In fact, there was a big stone right near my big toe. As you can see, I'm surrounded by lots of beefcakes. This is the Traverse. This one caught in the Beast footage, and it is basically 2 A-frames, one slightly higher than the other. It's about 20 meters apart, and you've just got to get from one end to the other on a rope. You can do it underneath or above the rope. It's completely up to you, but it's quite taxing.
There's been a few people getting
dilly-dally at
got held up and they were racing.
Or if you take your feet off of the ropes for too long. There's 2 general techniques. The one where you kind of just walk both hands and feet all the way back, and there's the other technique where you drag your feet. Now on the first day I had machine guards on, and I dragged my feet for the most part. The second day I didn't have them on because they were really wet and etc. So I only had my socks. The second I started to pull and tried to drag my feet, I realised that I was burning holes in the back of my calves and the Achilles. So I resorted to having to sort of walk it back, which feels like a little bit slower.
Reach out.
And that belt, but certainly for the second half, is quite torturous because you can feel the blood going out of your hands and your legs, and you're seeing people drop off the rope left, right and centre, and there's no water under you, so if you fall off you hit the ground pretty hard. So just a bit of running through Bluebell Woods. There was loads of this. Gun show. Thanks for that. Yeah, there's lots of lovely bits like that. On day 1, this had an extended board with like climbing holds on, which made that really quite difficult. On the second day, that made it a little bit more approachable or manageable, tackleable. Certainly for the sort of the super crowd who was as it's the intermediate difficulty, then you don't want to make it almost impossible for the most people that are doing it. So they took off the handhelds, and it was very much easier on the
I'll see you
second
down.
day. And then there was this lovely bit of downhill all the way down that valley to the sort of where the main obstacles are back to back to the finish line. It was almost too steep to run at that point. You let yourself go too fast, you end up face planting. They'd also simplified this a little bit. They'd taken those like tables, those height tables that I had to do previously, and it was just a vertical net. Super simple, super easy. You're over that in 30 seconds and you're off again. Back down to the alternating monkey bars. So it was high, low, high, low, high, low, which it's a slightly different feel than just regular monkey bars. Nice that I had my gloves on and the tape. Even though they were a bit wet, it didn't really manage to sort of have any bearing. As you can see, I was just sort of gesturing as such. And this is my approach back to the spear throw for the second time. As you approach the spear throw, you can see people on the event having goes at various degrees of success. Lots of common mistakes, leaving all the rope on your side of the fence, not untangling the rope, stepping on the rope, or simply misthrowing it in one form or another. So I said to the camera, can lightning strike twice? So once all my rope is untangled and on that side of the fence, I have my throw. Now I hit this right at the bottom of the bale of hay, and I looked at the marshal, always make sure I got my green light, and he said yes, that counts. And I've checked the rules since, as long as it hits and stays in and doesn't touch the floor, it's a winner chicken dinner. Back up Stupid Bucket Hill, back down Stupid Bucket Hill. Yeah, some of the bucket carriers, just an uncomfortable weight, It's just it's a bit rubbish. Glad to see the back of that. No, a bit more gratuitous gun show, followed by the aeroplane. That's makes me faster when I do that. This back up the hill under that stupid net. Back down the hill after that stupid net. I think I'd figured out the standing up technique on this one, so I'd come down it a little bit faster. And I think towards the end of Super I started to accelerate a little bit. I'd sort of taken my time in the sort of first half just to sort of warm up for the day. And this is where it all went a bit peaked up. You can see that I couldn't quite process at this point why I was failing. The lady tried to be nice, but I wasn't having any of it. I did my penalty loop and proceeded on. I knew it was the gloves. I've done the hoist at least 5 times in the past and never really had a problem, even when they've seized up and got hard. I came back up the rope climb for the second time. Again, it doesn't really matter how taxed your hands are or your arms, because you climb with your legs, predominantly with that footlock. As long as you get that footlock, that's why you can take your hand off the rope at the top and ding the bell, because you've locked your feet. If you try and pinch the rope with your feet, you're never going to have that stability. So work on that technique if you don't know it. Again, the Atlas stone, no real bother. Just pick it up, carry, run, and go back. You can see various techniques. Some people try and get this up onto their shoulder, but for that sort of short of a distance, it doesn't really need to be on your shoulder.
Come on.
Back into the sort of hole. The balance beam. This has been my downfall on day one. I sort of accidentally touched that sort of up ramp with my hand, just glanced it, but the marshal saw, so she set me up the penalty loop for that. Thank you very much. And this was a bit slippier than I had anticipated. By adding that little bit of water before you go up it just makes that certainly the last meter just very, very, very slippy. And then back to gratuitous slow-mo, excellent. As we approach the final A-frame again, and this time I think I got about halfway across the very last obstacle, but we'll see that in a second. This is a lovely long clip of me bouncing down the hill. You can see some of the fast ladies approaching me from behind. They had caught me up. And over this A-frame. Normally we see the A-frames at the start, and they're normally they make up part of the event village. I've seen that before a few times.
but in this particular instance it was right at the end. And for this particular finish, it was slow-mo through heat haze for the win, which is really quite cool. As you can see, as serious as I am there, the second I go airborne, it turns into a goofy gun show. Wah! And then over the finish line for the end of Super. So that's the end of that one, and I will pick this up in sprint.
Hi everyone, so quick update. I did Beast yesterday, I did Super this morning, 10k, which was well over 7 miles, and now I'm waiting for my final race to complete my trifecta, which is the Spartan Sprint, which is apparently about 5k, knowing Spartan Race to run everything a little bit long, likely be over 4 miles, and it contains the cluster of obstacles at the very end in this sort of valley over here. Quite a few bodyweight swings and stuff. I'm still sort of nursing callus loss from yesterday, which I'm really quite sore, so I ran the Super with my hands taped and gloves over the top, which got me through the entire thing with the exception of one, and that was the hoist. Now trying to pull on that hoist, it felt like my hands were ineffective completely. It wasn't my strength, it wasn't my grip, it was just the fact that the gloves were just letting the rope slip through. It was a bit sad to watch actually, knowing that I can do it quite easily normally, but it is what it is. So yeah, 5k, and then I can go to the tent and I can get my weekend trifecta. I can complete all 3 pieces of my trifecta medal. I'll get a medal for each event. It's just so much bling. I'm looking forward to putting it all together, getting my Spartan Phil helmet out of the car, laying it all out just for the sake of a picture. I have to say that this entire venue has been just fantastic. It's beautiful. The woods are full of bluebells. The views from the top of the hills are fantastic, even if you have to run up the piston hills. Yeah, really good. I've obviously blown loads of time off the last effort at Pippingford, even though the 2 routes are not necessarily comparable because of the length of each. It's not necessarily the same as each other. But yeah, a good 30 minutes from my Pippingford effort to here, certainly on the Beast. I think all of my times will reflect that. Should be taking the GoPro on my next outing, but because the next one isn't an age-graded competitive wave, I can just chill and take my time and enjoy the last wave. Anyway, let's go crack on with that.
Okay, so this is the start line of sprint. I'm wearing the GoPro this time. This is an open wave, that's why there's probably a lot more people, it's a lot more dense, and it's generally why people run out of speed, and I find myself at the front quite soon on, but you'll see that in a sec. So this is just the end of Spartan Phil's little talk that he does. He must be quite fed up of repeating himself. And as you can see, there's lots of keen folk off the line. A lot of these guys are fresh, have only come for the sprint. As I'm wearing the GoPro, there's no off runner footage, so it's basically on board for the most part. And we go straight to the overs, unders and throughs. As you can see, people are stopping already, looking around, often having come with their friends, waiting for their partners, things like that. And before you know it, I'm not really going for it, but I'm toward the front of the group. Over the wall. One of the walls has been removed because there was 2 there earlier on. This is some of the obstacles that we wouldn't necessarily have seen because Holly wouldn't have followed me into this part of the woods, so just some simple over bales of hay and things like that in the woods, just to sort of keep it interesting. The inverted wall that we've not seen yet. Obviously all these obstacles I've had to go over 3 times. Generally the technique on this is to get your finger over the top and just walk your feet over those steps. You're over it pretty quickly. It's just whether or not you come down facing the ramp or on your bum. I generally come down a bit like that guy did, just sort of on your side, and then it's up to a bit of a steep hill into arguably the worst part of all of the races. which is this, and it's not made any better in the open wave by having 400 people under the wire in front of you, because you are waiting for people to get out of the way before you can crack on. So you can just feel time disappearing. Not that I would have gone that much faster, but I probably would have gone a bit quicker. The sort of the grass and stuff, if you've got bare knees, the grass and stuff was particularly brutal. Like sandpaper, and you already got sore knees from the previous day. Now this is the water. On this particular one, you'll see I put my hands up. This is a rubbish attempt to try and keep my gloves dry. It did not work, because when I then had to get out, I needed my hands. It was all wet, so I got wet anyway.
I don't want to get my gloves wet.
I was able, as it turns out, I was able to touch the bottom all the way across. It wasn't that deep.
Okay.
So yeah.
So where you get shit in your
then
shoes.
It was back up the gravelly slope where you get stuff in your shoes. Again, got more rubbish in my shoes. But obviously, we've taken the immediate right after this. We joined the sort of obstacles pretty quick, so I knew we didn't have that far to go. This was already about halfway through in terms of distance. As you can see, because it's an open wave, there's just that many more people on the course, and at multiple times you do have to wait for your turn. It's just the difference between age group and the open waves, and it was one of the, it's one of the reasons why you do save a lot of time in age groups. It's why your times may look different from when you go from one to the other. Again, over this vertical climb, not too much of a bother there. And off down to the monkey bars for another go. As you can see, I'm sort of waiting for my turn here. This poor chap on the right, not sure he's got that right at all. I think he drops off.
Look out.
Yeah, he dropped off quite badly there. And the guy in front of me, he's sort of got the same technique as me. I generally kind of go sideways for this, a little bit like a sloth. I'd sort of hook like that. And that works really well, certainly if it's wet day. If you go palms forward, you more easily come off. So off we go, continuing down the course, quite chuffed with that. The glove situation is still working. Okay, so as you can see, I just threw the spear for the third time. Got two angles for this one because I had the GoPro on. Before I went onto the bucket. I was really quite chuffed about that. Here's the second view from the outside camera, right in the heart this time. I went high on the first throw, low on the second go, right in the middle. It's a proper Goldilocks and Three Bears type story. And this is the hoist. You notice that I've taken my gloves off, and it is providing, much better purchase on the rope. Like I say, there was never really anything to do with my strength or grip. They're fine, just don't wear wet gloves when you're doing the hoist. To the rope climb for the third time. I can start to feel now that I'm close to the end, and I'm starting to, I'm wanting to get to the finish. I want my medal, I want my trifecta. I can remember feeling that way at the time. I was like, come on, let's get this done. So quick shimmy up this rope for the last time. Even though these ropes aren't that high, you wouldn't want to come off. You really wouldn't. Right, so and but this is the Atlas stone carry for the third time. As you see, the sort of the lads next to me, they're having a bit of a rough time of it. I think the poor guy on the left had a bit of cramp. As soon as that was set back in its hole, I was running again. What I was noticing now at this point is the sort of amount of people walking and things like that was starting to increase. I was finding myself having to sort of run around people. I certainly had to wait for my little turn on the sort of balance beam. I did have a re-go at this. They weren't marshalling it quite like they were on day one and even that morning. So went back and had to go another go. There's absolutely no harm to do that in the opens. And this is where I noticed there was tons of people all sort of clustered and walking, and I knew that if I didn't beat them to this rope pull-up, the slippy ramp thing, I'd be waiting for ages. And even after I'd overtaken all those people, there was still loads of people waiting, to the point where I've had to edit out my waiting. Would have saved another 2 minutes at this point, just waiting for people to get up and over this thing. It's a bit frustrating when you have got an eye on the clock, but like I said, it's the Opens, you take it with a pinch of salt, you don't have to take it as seriously as the other stuff. Right, and finally we're on to the last of the A-frames. Quick over, last go on the frame. I tried to get a bit more of a swing with the intention of maybe trying to jump the last bit. I think I turned my body the wrong way on. I think I needed to be the other way round to make that happen, rather than left arm first. I should have been right arm first. Did my penalty loop, did my fire jump, and over the line for the finale. Now, really quite happy to be at that point. As you can see, I get my medal, get an arm full of free stuff, my t-shirt, and I'm done. That's it.
I'm done!
That is it. I have completed the third and final race. Just finished the sprint. It was in the Opens. There wasn't no age graded race for this particular event, which takes the pressure off me a little bit. And if you ever go from the age graded to the Opens, you suddenly go from feeling like one of the less fit people to one of the fittest people in the world. It's like you're on a motorbike when you're going through the sort of the general populace of people, or the ones that are just coming for the first time. And that's the beauty of Spartan Race. It has a level for everyone, whether you're the very first timer doing your first 5k, or if you are a seasoned pro testing yourself event after event after event at the sort of professional level. Now, I am done for today. My body, for the most part, is okay. I've got sort of on the inside of the elbows there was a lot of dangling going on over these last 25 or so miles that I've done. But it has been a fantastic event. Like the venue here is almost like second to none. It is beautiful, and we've been blessed with such good weather that it just adds to everything. Obviously the Spartan brand and the Spartan event is just fantastic. Spartan Phil adds to it, and all the people that you go by are just the best competitors. So I just want to conclude by saying I had a really good time, and that is Trifecta 1 in the bag. The next one is in July. Hi everyone, welcome back. It has been 48 hours since I returned from Spartan Race down in Henley-on-Thames. I had an absolute blast, absolute great time. So just to recap, if you hadn't got it already, Beast on the Saturday, Super on the Sunday morning, Sprint on the Sunday afternoon. 3 events, weekend trifecta, brilliant. The whole thing from start to end, brilliant. My objective was to, 1, not embarrass myself, 2, set a benchmark, and 3, figure out where I fit in sort of the age group, the sort of table of men my own age. You know, it's very, very good to go up against people who are on a similar footing. You don't always want to be competing against teenagers or guys in their 20s. Those guys are jacked, they have infinitely more testosterone than you do in your 40s, so and they are obviously fit as fiddles as well. So though I do consider myself fit for age. Now, so let's just talk about the results real quick, because I'm not going to get hung up on any one thing. I said that at the beginning, I didn't want to embarrass myself. I didn't want to come in the bottom half of any particular group. But it's quite clear that some people show up just for Beast, put everything into Beast, and they aren't going to worry or save anything for the next day. And then there's people that show up at Super the very next morning and compete, and they're fresh as daisies, so they're not compromised by the Beast the previous day. So there's never going to be a way to have an even, fair playing field in the age group trifecta, unless all 3 races are compulsory in the competitiveness aspect of it all. So just bear that in mind when I go through my results. Now, the Beast, the 13 miler, which actually turned out to be 14 miles. Thanks a lot, Spartan, for your inability to calculate distance. I came 19th out of 45 in my age group, which is way under the sort of the halfway mark. Quite happy with that, over that sort of distance, and that puts me 89th of 209 total men, I believe it is. So again, much lower than the halfway mark. So again, to reiterate, when you're running the beast, you know that you've got 2 more races the next day. So there's no way you're going to give it every single thing you've got. You're going to be holding back, probably to the tune of about 20%. So the results are skewed by however many races you are signed up to do. If I put everything into that, I'd be on my knees the next morning. So the very next morning I got up and did the super. Now, this one I went into quite conservatively for a couple of reasons. I was stiff as a board, aching, fatigued, and I started halfway sort of down the pack. Probably subconsciously put myself there, didn't realise it. And I came exactly 30 of 60, right? So again, I knew I had another race after this, and I'd been compromised by the beast before. And you were then going up against fresh people that had shown up to compete in that 110k race, so they are blitzing, and it was quite obvious who the fresh daisies were and who were the trifecta chasers, so there is that to think about. But overall I was 139 of 308, so all that's telling me is there's a lot of really fit dudes in the 40 to 44 category. In fact, I had a little check down the 30s and even the 20s, and I would have done better in their age groups than I would have done in my own. In the younger age groups, I would have done better. I would have ranked higher with my time than I did in my own age group. So take from that what you will. And finally, the sprint in the afternoon. This wasn't an age graded sprint, so this was the masses. I came 12th in my age group, out of 126 40 to 44 year olds, and that puts me 47 out of 770 men. So that is significantly on the right side of the line. So essentially I was in the top half of everything. So I take away from that didn't do too bad. I know I can do better. Now I know how it all feels. Obviously you come out of each race aching from what you've just gone through. It is a process that you have to sort of get yourself ready for the next race, get to the line and just get it done. For all intensive purposes, I had a great time. There were a few times when I was racing that certain things happened. So for example, I tore the calluses off, or 3 calluses off my hands on the beast, so I had to then strap them and wear gloves over the top of the tape for the very next day. And I went through all the sort of hanging exercises, like, you know, with my hands protected. I felt great. You know, everything was going great right up until the point when I got to the hoist. I'm pulling the hoist. I'm noticing as I'm pulling down, the rope is slipping back up through my grip. No matter how hard I squeeze this, just because of the texture of my gloves, and they were a bit wet, and the rope, I had absolutely no purchase on it whatsoever. And despite being strong enough and my grip being strong enough and never really having a problem with the hoist, it felt like it was greased up. That's the sort of sensation. And that was on the super. So by the time I got to the sprint, I was still wearing the gloves, and I had to go through the hoist again. I whipped the gloves off and it went up so easy. I don't know what I was messing around at. Highlight for me is that I got all 3 spears. Beast, super, sprint, boom. Yes, got all 3. It was the one thing I wasn't sure of, that I was absolutely guaranteed to fail and I would have to do penalties for. But that wasn't the case. I actually did rather quite well. I approached each time and I took just an extra few seconds to untangle the rope and put it on the other side of the fence before I threw it. And the amount of people I saw who would pull all the rope over on their side of the fence, throw the spear, and they were stepped on the rope. So the spear would just stop mid-air, hit the ground, and then they had to do a bloody bucket carry penalty right before the bucket carry exercise. One other thing that's worth noting, and I don't know if this was on purpose or by design or if it was just an accident, it just turned out that way, but a lot of the hanging exercises were all clustered together. Lots of ones that required grip and finger strength, lots of overhead hanging and stuff. There was about 4 or 5 in a row that were all that. So as you work through them, the Traverse, Everest, Ape Hanger, whatever it's called, they're all, all of those are, by the time you come out of those, you're like this. Your hands are all seized up and stiff, and then you turn a corner and then there's another one with rock holds to hold. By then your fingers are so broken that you struggle because just exercise that one after the other. It would have been nice if they were just spread out a little bit more. And similarly, the bucket carry was right next door to the sandbag carry. It's like, come on, they could be further apart. But this is just tiny little details. Like I said, it might have been on purpose just to make it that little bit more testing. The venue, mind-blowing place. It made it infinitely better that it was beautiful weather and you could see, and the bluebells were all lined out in all the woods. The Beast, for example, you within 5 minutes of starting, you're in the woods, and you're in the woods for 8 miles. And there's only 5 obstacles, so it's a lot of running. So you just have to sort of look around and daydream as you clock these miles off. But it was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Really, 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 really good. And the bling you get, I will show you a little video I took actually on site, but essentially this is the trifecta. You get 3 pieces, and these are the bits that are going to go in my little pyramid doohickey at the very end of the year. By October I should have 3 sets of these, and they will form a pyramid. Not only that, I've got this medal, this medal, this medal, this medal, and this medal. Fantastic. So you come away with essentially 1, 2, 3, 6 bits of bling. So with all of that being said, I just want to say, if you're thinking about doing Spartan racing, you've never done one before, get signed up to the Opens. If you've done a Spartan race before, get signed up to the age groups. Get it done. Alright? Thanks for watching all of this, and please give the channel a subscribe. It keeps me going, and I will see you in my next video. Alright, Mart out.